Hello, folks. Welcome to Fearox Movie Reviews. That's right. This isn't Fearox Frank Reviews anymore. It is now Fearox Movie Reviews, which means which means I am rebooting my show, and I'm not exactly happy about that. Because, well, now that I've actually learned about newer things about some of the movies I've actually reviewed so far, that means I have to re-review some of them again. Well, by some of them, if not, probably most of them. Now that I actually have the technology and editing technology, I can actually insert clips here and there, like I just did with the title card there for a second. So anyway, I think it's best that I start off with the movie that started off the entire show. A movie I badmouth, and after watching it again, my opinions haven't changed about it at all whatsoever. Oh boy, did they royally screw the pooch on that one. Yes, we're of course talking about the original Kickboxer from this lovely collection here, and I have no idea why the Redemption's even on here, because it's not really a Kickboxer film at all. So, ignoring that, let's get started, shall we? Now, the movie Kickboxer is actually a late 1980s martial arts action film. That's also a thriller, and of course, like I said previously in my old show, it pretty much got everything wrong. Wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. Literally, everything was wrong. Now, let me explain. The culture, like for example, clearly they didn't know anything at all about the martial art of Muay Thai. Now, I actually looked up on Wikipedia recently, and I actually discovered a couple of things about it. For one thing, this movie did introduce the world of Muay Thai, and supposedly Tong Po, the main villain, was the inspiration for Goro from Mortal Kombat. Which, now that I think about that out loud, that's two Van Damme movies we have that were the inspiration for Mortal Kombat. Bloodsport being the actual inspiration for the whole game itself, and Goro was based on the main villain from the Kickboxer film. I'm not even gonna get into that right now. Let's just get started with the review, shall we? The movie basically starts off with a championship match between Eric and one of his opponents. I don't know who this opponent is. Not to mention, we don't know who this fighter even is at all. So I'm not even gonna bother looking into it, and then also the hell with it. So anyway, Eric completely knocks this guy the fuck out. And of course, there's a post-fight interview with him and his brother. And who is it they were actually encountered by? They get encountered by the director of the movie. Yes, the guy who's talking about them going to Thailand is the director of the movie. You know what? It's because of this dumb fuck we actually have the movie. Unbelievable. Clearly, this guy didn't do any of his research on Thai culture, on history, or anything on Muay Thai related. So clearly they thought that it's an 80s martial arts movie. Just make it all like a kung fu style film. Do your fucking research! Okay. Let's get on, shall we? So thanks to the cameo by the director, they go to Thailand, where they say this is where kickboxing was invented. Okay. Couple of things. One, that's just wrong. That's actually complete false information, because Muay Thai was invented in Thailand, as well as several other variations of the style, like Muay Thai Ladrit, Muay Thai Chata, and of course Muay Baran, which is the original style. And going back further, there's Krav Maga, and going back a bit further, it turns out the whole thing was part of the same empire that Cambodia was part of, and that spanned from Laos to Myanmar to Vietnam, and the original martial art was called Bokator. And that's why most of the martial arts from that entire area, from those other countries, are similar to Muay Thai. Just thought you should probably know, because clearly, like I said, nobody did any research for this movie at all. Like, for example, did you know for a fact that kickboxing was not invented in Thailand, but in fact On sport kickboxing was in fact invented in Japan. Yes, Japanese kickboxing is what actually started the whole thing off. And if you really want to go back further, the actual sport of kickboxing was actually invented in France with the martial arts system of savate. Yeah, boxing. Yeah, the savate boxe, or however they pronounce it. Even though it's technically considered a boxing style, it's still basically kickboxing. In fact, all the rules of kickboxing were heavily based off of the savate. As a matter of fact, a lot of people and a lot of historians are saying that savate may have actually contributed to many of the kicks from Asian martial arts systems. Again, of course, that's all speculation, but again, I would much rather watch a movie based on that history rather than them fucking up the history of a martial arts system that I actually happen to like a lot. So yeah. Anyways, they actually do wind up going to the stadium, and they're watching. And of course, Eric thinks they're going to have a huge piece of cake time as they get ready. So, and of course, Kurt is actually watching some of the fights, and he's actually a little bit blown away by the fact that the fighting system is completely, well, brutal to say the least. But if anything, there's something else about this that I do have to like about this movie, and that's Tong Po's introduction. Let's take a look at it, shall we? Yes, we're seeing this empty hallway, and all we hear is a thud noise, and we see a ponytail flipping around in the wind, just flipping. That's right, just flickering around in the light. Once Kirk enters the room, he sees Tong Po is actually shin kicking the pillar. Now, before you say anything else, this is actually somewhat I can actually see this actually happening in real life for a couple of reasons. For example, karatekas in Japan were actually known to actually hit stones hit boulders and stones with their fists and forearms, even their feet and shins at one point, just to prove their toughness and actually show it's mostly mind over matter. And this is very true in many martial arts. In fact, some boxers actually wind up punching the wall just before matches, just to get their blood pumping. Even though they're wearing gloves, they're still hitting the wall at full force. So it's like, yeah, they're just really getting pumped up. Right, so this is clearly Tong Po getting pumped up, and just to look at Tong Po's eyes says, this guy's fucking crazy and he's a fucking animal. Kirk, of course, tries his best to explain to Eric everything about how crazy this guy is, but Eric is having none of it, and he says he can take this guy on. So come the match, where I will give Michael Quincy credit for playing Tong Po on this one. He actually does the Y Crew, which of course is a ceremonial dance that actually happens before every match in Muay Thai. But by the time the fight starts, Eric pretty much gets his ass handed to him. Like, seriously, he gets his ass kicked by the first round. And Tong Po actually does, well, let's just say, like I said many times, nobody did their research for this movie of how Muay Thai rules work. Because Tong Po immediately hits an elbow. Not only does Tong Po use elbows and knees like a natural Muay Thai fighter, but he also hits him with a headbutt, which is illegal in Muay Thai. Okay, look. Here's the thing. You want to know a martial arts system that's actually legal in? I'll tell you. It's Lithuania, which is in Myanmar, dumbasses. Wrong fucking country. Idiots. Honestly. It really pisses me off to no end that they really got everything wrong about this. I'm sorry. But not only does Tong Po do that, he actually picks him up and throws him around, which of course is another illegal move in Muay Thai. Here's the thing: you can actually trip your opponent. You can actually get somebody in the clinch and do a judo style throw. It's not exactly illegal per se, but it is basically you tripping up your opponent in a way. But what Tong Po does, he's actually holding him from this position here, which is extremely illegal regardless. So anyway, Kurt says they should probably call off the fight, but of course Eric, being so pig-headed, says no. He continues the fight, he gets his ass handed to him even more, and Kurt throws in the towel, only to have Tong Po kick it out, which is an immediate disqualification. Again, did anybody do their fucking research? This is illegal everywhere. The second you kick that towel out of the ring during the middle of a fight, it's illegal. which means Tong Po automatically lost the fight. And actually, now that I think about it, Tong Po may have actually lost more fights than any other fighter in Muay Thai history. Oh my god. He's the biggest sore fucking loser in cinema history. Wow. I'm just blown away by that. What a dumbass. Anyway, he breaks Eric's back, and then of course he goes crazy and then kicks Kurt out of the ring. So where of course he bumps into Winston Taylor. So Freddie Lee, the other main villain, actually tells them to just throw Eric out on the sidewalk, which they do, and of course, again, heavily illegal everywhere. If somebody is heavily injured, they have to take them to the hospital, no matter what country you're in. Did anybody even do their fucking research about this? I'm gonna get a beer real quick. Okay, now that I'm calmed down, let's continue on, shall we? Eventually, Winston actually winds up helping Eric and Kurt by getting Eric to the hospital, where of course they actually come to the conclusion, which of course sadly comes down to the conclusion that Eric can no longer fight. He will no longer be able to walk again. I am just seething with anger right now that just trying to keep it contained. Yeah, just trying to keep it contained. Because I'm really pissed off with this film. Eventually, Eric wants to get revenge on Tong Po, so he wants to fight with Muay Thai to get back at him. But of course, every gym he goes to rejects him because they think he's stupid and an idiot. So eventually Taylor comes in again to help him out. Because he actually knows somebody who can train him. After a night of drinking at a strip club, he takes him over to the countryside where they meet, where he introduces him to Zian Chow. And of course, Zian Chow is not exactly keen on actually training him at first. Because, well, okay, I gotta admit, there is some racial stuff in here, though, that's dated and kind of stupid. And honestly, it's really beyond fucking stupid. Not to mention the fact you can actually go to a Muay Thai gym. You can go to a local Muay Thai gym in Thailand and train wherever the fuck you want to. Right? I mean, seriously, this movie just clearly is so fucking backwards that they got everything wrong. So let's continue, shall we? So eventually Zian actually tells Kurt to go and pick up some groceries from one of the local shops where Mai Li is. Mai Li happens to be his niece. Where of course they actually meet and he does a little slight flirtation. He gets a little flirty in some way or another, but mostly just trying to be friendly. And he tells her that he's going to try asking Zian to train him in Muay Thai. Until some of Freddie Lee's guys cause trouble and actually try to take some money from her, which of course leads to another fight. And to be fair, since Kurt is still extremely angry to what Freddie Lee's fighter Tong Po did, just be glad to see these guys getting the ass whooping and not anybody else. So eventually Kurt comes back, and thanks to more convincing from Taylor, he decides, okay, they train you in Muay Thai. And of course the training goes, well, sort of basic stuff, just like just like kind of like how the mixing of the cultures, trying to be introduced to other cultures' way of fighting or martial arts training. Even though half of it is wrong to begin with, even though it seems like it's something you would see out of a kung fu or karate movie, which is kind of dumb. But some of the stuff is actually Muay Thai related, like the tree kicking part here, which is the only thing that's actually closely related to that. Go figure, right? So eventually Miley tells Zian Chow what Kurt did to the shop, and he's more than proud of what happened. So anyway, they actually start interacting more and more, and Miley and Kurt become more and more interactive. And so they start to build up a bit of a romance with each other. Now that's done with back to more training, but this time in actual local Thai temples, which is something I gotta give the movie credit for. They did do a lot of location shots in this movie, and yeah, not gonna lie, I do like the location shot. Actually, if anything, if I was gonna go back to hardcore Muay Thai training, I'd much rather go to Thailand and actually get the full blown Muay Thai treatment. And training in temples is actually something that's been on my bucket list for a while. Yeah. Sad I never actually got a chance to do that yet. I have a really massive bucket list, trust me. And when the movie pretty much progresses onward with Eric actually getting a little bit, actually starting to feel a bit more better, but he's unable to walk. Tom Poe basically beating the shit out of everybody in the ring, illegally, mind you. How he's still fighting in the ring and not in prison is beyond me. So what, you saying Freddie Lee controls the law system? Okay, a bit of a news flash. Criminals are not in charge of the fight game at all. There was actually a massive controversy about the whole thing years ago, decades ago. Here's the thing. Muay Thai, the martial arts system of Muay Thai is very sacred in Thailand. Criminals cannot actually can integrate their people into it as easily as this movie's led to believe. So yeah, that's another thing they screwed up on massively. But anyway, Kirk continues on training, and he actually does more of the tree kicking scene. And okay, I'm not gonna lie, but this is actually another one of my favorite parts of the movie. Aside from Tom Poe's entrance, this is another one of my favorite parts of the entire movie, and it's very Muay Thai-ish. All right, it's basically Kurt is trying his best to is actually trying to kick the tree, but of course he's feeling too much pain from it. So he gives up relatively easily, and then Zian tells him to kick the tree. He says, no, what you want me to do, break my fucking leg or something? Until he says, your brother. Now, the main reason why Kurt wants to train Muay Thai is because of his brother. And of course, Zian tells him to leave, and then he tells him why he came to train. He came to train because of his brother. This ignites a fire in Kurt that only angers him, not only gives him the fire he needs, but it pisses him off to the point where he doesn't care about the pain anymore, and he keeps kicking the tree constantly to the point where he actually breaks the tree in half by kicking it so hard. And before you say anything, yes, banana tree kicking is a thing in Thailand. Not only you shin kick the tree, but you also elbow it and punch it too. So yeah, legitimate thing in Thailand. They actually got right. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, so can't really ignore that, can we? Eventually, Kurt's training actually starts to pay off more and more, and, well, he actually gets really good, and of course, him and Miley are getting even more and more closer together, but Zian wants to put Kurt through a bit of a test, so he takes him out drinking, and, okay, I know this movie is stupid, and I gotta admit, this scene is extremely dumb, but it's one of the things that made this film so fucking entertaining. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see the Kickboxer dance. Yes, this scene is the Kickboxer dance. The scene basically progresses with Zian actually giving Kurt some real intensive alcohol, and he gets him completely drunk, and he makes him start dancing. And of course, Zian gets a couple of the girls to go up and start dancing with him. And here's the thing. Freddie Lee's in the bar with some of his henchmen, including this guy in the fisherman's wardrobe who actually has a bunch of knives with him. So think of him as kind of like Freddie Lee's bodyguard, so whatever. Anyways, they actually start. Anyway, Kurt continues his funky kickboxer dance, which is something everybody likes about this movie so far. It's ridiculous, but to be fair, it's one of the best things in the whole fucking movie, aside from like the tree kick scene and the Tom Poe's entrance. But this scene in particular, it's so memorable. They actually wound up using it in the remake and its sequel, but mostly in the end credit sequence. And boy, we weren't expecting it, but when the music came on and they started doing the dance, yeah. Anyway, it turns out all the guys that are actually in the bar are actually Freddie Lee's fighters. And of course, Zian goes around insulting him, saying that Kurt insulted them all. And of course, they try to fight Kurt, and Kurt probably beats the shit out of all of them with relative ease. You gotta keep this in mind too. Kurt is drunk off of his ass, and he's beating these guys up like it's nothing. That's how far he's come in training. All right, and he's still holding back too. Or he's mostly fighting in self-defense format, but he's literally whipping all their asses while he's dancing, and he's drunk at the same time. This scene is so ridiculous. You have to watch it. You just have to fucking watch it. Seriously, it is so ridiculous. I love it. Anyway, eventually Kurt beats up all the fighters, and of course, Zian Chow actually challenges Freddie Lee to give Kurt a real fight, which Freddie disagrees with, but ultimately gives in and says fine. And so we actually have Kurt actually has his first true Muay Thai fight, and of course he kicks the shit out of the opponent. And then we actually hear one of the other memorable things from this movie, the White Warrior line, also known as Nuk Sung Kao. Yeah. And before you say anything, yes, they do say Nuk Sung Kao a lot, but I'm not gonna lie, I actually did do a little research for this, and I found out that the actual translation is not Nuk Sung Kao, it's this.
นักรบสีขาว นักรบสีขาว นักรบสีขาว
Did anybody ever do their research? You know what? I'm going to answer that very question. No, they don't. No, they don't. So pretty much after the victory, Kurt actually challenges Tong Po, which of course they do accept. And of course, Eric, on the other hand, is not exactly happy about this whole thing because he tells Kurt to forget about it. So pretty much it's like a role reversal from earlier on in the movie where Kurt actually told Eric that it was a bad idea to fight Tong Po, and now because of the fact he's in a wheelchair, he's telling Kurt the exact same thing. You know, you should have listened to him, and they wouldn't have been in this predicament in the first place. Or, more specifically, here's an idea. Don't listen to this idiot! Yeah, this whole thing's because of you. You fucked up. You did this, man. Because of this, these brothers are not in a bad predicament. You deserve an ass whooping. Yeah, I know he's the director and everything, but still. It's not my fault. When it comes to a massive fuck up, he fucked up. It's unforgivable. So eventually, Kurt continues on training until they get an invitation that the fight will now be they will fight in the old way, which of course involves broken glass. Do your fucking research, assholes! Okay. That's as far as I'm going for is yelling, because I don't want to actually because I don't want to lose my voice here, okay? But here's the thing, all right? Take a look at these images real quick, all right? These are actually how the TIE fighters used to dress in the old Muay Baran days. And yes, Muay Baran is the old style of Muay Thai, not this bullshit thing that they're actually coming up with the movie. No. Here's the thing: Muay Baran fighters dressed up exactly like these, and of course they wrap their fists in hemp-like rope. Like take this image of Tony Jaa from Ambak real quick. This is just a promotional imagery for Ambak. This is how a traditional Muay Baran warrior, Muay Baran fighter is dressed as. This is how they're dressed, and And of course, Muay Baran fights actually utilize more grappling and of course more maneuvers and more kicks and punches that were actually considered illegal to use in Muay Thai. And to be fair, there is a Muay Thai style called Muay Thai Chana that combines Muay Baran and traditional Muay Thai together. Alright? So, it pisses me off to know nobody did their research on this movie. Okay? And to put the broken glass rumor to rest, you see this hemp-like rope that's around their arms? Yeah, that rope, look at the end of them, there was these small string things. Here's the thing, some Muay Baran warriors always put like a piece of jewelry, an heirloom, a little, like a written letter with some good luck charm on it though. But some fighters who were very dirty back then used to put pieces of broken glass on those things. So every time they tossed a punch, they tossed a hook or an elbow, they would intentionally miss and the glass would come flying in the other fighter's face. That's where it came from. Seriously. You know what? All joking aside, I know there's already a remake of Kickboxer, but they seriously need to do another remake, only with actual Thai history this time. And actual... I need another drink. So, Kurt continues on training so he can be better at the... be prepared for the fight. And while he's training, he's actually starting to hear the ancient ancestors of the warriors at the temples. Which, to be fair, all joking aside, it's actually not a bad suggestion for the movie, though, especially when it comes down to ancient martial arts like Muay Thai. Now, to secure funds for the fight, Freddie Lee actually goes to the so-called Master Warlord, Tao Lu. I'm just going to call him what he is. The Kingpin. Yeah, he's basically the Kingpin. He's not a warlord. He's a master criminal who's basically a kingpin, or in this case, a mafia don. That's what he is. Okay, no matter how the hell they say it, they still fucked up. And okay, you know what? I'm done saying the whole do your fucking research and everything, because clearly, like I said before, they didn't do their fucking research at all for this movie. All right, so I'm done with that. Let's just continue on with the movie at this point. Because like I said, I don't want to screw my lungs out anymore, and actually want to be a sore throat for the next week. Alright, so eventually, Freddie tells him that they got a fight with Tong Po and Kurt Sloan. Of course, Tao thinks it's a joke until Lee tells him that Xian Chao's been training Kurt, and of course, he's actually a bit concerned about that because Xian Chao was one of the best fighters in Thailand back then. So, Freddie guarantees that Kurt won't win. And by guarantees, he's mostly going to cheat his way through the top. What I mean by that is they actually doing some bad shit, and of course eventually kidnap Mai Li, where Tong Po sexually assaults her. And yes, they actually don't... There's supposed to be a cut in the movie that actually shows the full sexual assault, but thankfully they didn't show that. And honestly, I'm glad they didn't. Because this guy was nothing more because Tong Po is nothing more but a bastard case. And I'm not too sure if Joe put him on the A-list, but if he didn't, Joe, you really need to put him on the A-list. But all of that, eventually Freddie Lee's men also kidnap Eric, so that way Kurt will actually eventually lose the fight. And of course, Kiki, the dog, gets hurt. I can deal with all this. Seriously, I can deal with all this bullshit this movie continues on with. I mean, seriously, I'm talking about breaking a fight, kidnapping a brother who's already paralyzed, sexually assaulting the girlfriend thing, but harming a dog? For shame! Eventually, but before all that, Miley does actually tell her Uncle Zian, and she tells Winston as well. Winston says she probably should have told Kurt about the whole thing, which eventually Kurt finds out during the fight. I'll get to that later. And of course, the fight comes around, and this is just something ridiculous you see out of a kung fu film. This is not a Muay Baran thing. This isn't even a kickboxer film, a kickboxing movie anymore. It's just some ridiculous bullshit martial art film. I mean, I was expecting a full-blown kickboxing match, but I get this? This is ridiculous. I mean, this is so fucking ridiculous. It's kind of like saying if I want to watch a Godzilla film, that movie is called Godzilla, but there's a monster in it that's called Godzilla, but it's not Godzilla at all. Or Godzilla stars in a movie that's called something else. I mean, can you imagine if that actually did happen? It'd be really fucking stupid. That's what. So eventually they actually do get the fight started, but while this is happening, Ziad actually disappears because he wants to go find Eric and actually help him. So, and of course, Winston originally wanted to stay out of this whole thing. He changes his mind and actually gets his special forces gear back on, and actually wants them kicking their asses. So yeah, all the bad guys get fucked up regardless. So they actually rescue Eric, and the guy who actually hurt Kiki, he gets a hook up his ass. You know what? Not gonna lie, he deserved it. Yeah, you deserve it, pal. Not gonna lie, you fucking deserve it. Anyway, as the fight goes on for the first couple of rounds, Kirk actually gets actually holds back, and he gets his ass handed to him by Tong Po. And then, well, later on, he actually, towards the end of the second round, he says he bleeds just like my Lee. She a good fuck. Dude, really? You had to say that? You know, if this was Mike fucking Tyson, you would have lost your balls. Like, seriously, like, Mike would just kick you in the balls and just go down, actually pull a Johnny Cage maneuver, but instead of punching your balls, he would have grabbed them and ripped them right out. So, seriously. So eventually the third round begins, but what happens? Eric and the guys get there in time. He whistles the Kurt and he yells out "Nook Some Cow." Yeah, I'm not gonna replay the thing again. I'm not gonna say what the actual translation is. Just continue on with the movie, okay? Jeez, all right. Go back to the clip, Jesus. There we go. Anyway. So he actually yells out "Nook Some Cow." Kurt actually gets the fire back inside of him, but again, he tells Miley to cut off the rope wrist, and get rid of the glass gloves. And of course, Tom Poe decides to fight it, decides to attack it from behind, and Tom Poe gets fucked up badly. Yeah, Kurt beats the living shit out of him by humiliating. In fact, Kurt not only beats him up, he humiliates him in front of everybody. Seriously, Freddie Lee's right there. Tom Lau's right there, too. They're watching this whole thing as Tom Poe is getting his ass handed to him. He is just getting fucked up real badly. He's getting humbled in front of everybody while everybody's yelling out "Nook Some Cow, the White Warrior." Dude, it is just embarrassing. I mean, dude, this is beyond ultimate embarrassment, though. Hell, at some point, Tom Poe even grabs a torch, and it doesn't even matter because Kurt kicks him out of the ring. Alright, anyway, Tom Poe basically gets leaned up to a pillar and gets his ass handed to him even more with one nasty knockout kick. Freddie Lee is right there, and what does Kurt do? He kicks him in the face, knocking him out too. So, yeah. So yeah, everybody continuously chants "Nook Some Cow." Kurt is actually with his friends and the people who actually he cared for, and the movie ends with Kurt being the victor and the Muay Thai champion, with Tom Poe humbly defeated in the most humiliating way possible. The end. At least it would have been until we found out there was actually a sequel, where of course Tom Poe killed everybody off. In a drunken rampage. My God, this guy's a real fucking asshole. So, you know what? If he is on the A-list, dude, Joe, you might as well just put him back on the A-list again, because he deserves to be called that. So, he is a legitimate, full-blown fucking asshole. And to be fair, I'll give the remakes this much. They actually did do something better than the original film did. But other than that, that's the original Kickboxer. Is it good? Is it bad? I just mostly said everything bad about it. So, yeah, that's basically about it, though. But, in a sense, it's basically a bad movie that's become a cult classic that most people actually consider like the Room of martial art movies. So, it's so... mostly due to the fact that because they got everything wrong. Also, not to mention the final fight should have been like this. Just FYI, this is just footage from UFC 4, the Kumite mode. But yeah, this is what the fight should have been more like. I mean, seriously. But I know this is a much more ridiculous looking version of the fight, but yeah, this is what the fight should have been more like. Rope wrist in a temple like this, it would have been more than perfect, but nope. Again, they fucked up. So, not surprising there. But either way, this movie did actually want to... like I said, there were some good things about this movie regardless. It introduced them more to Muay Thai, but it wasn't until much later, when the later sequels came out, we actually see more about the original Muay Thai style and traditional Muay Thai kickboxing. So, yeah, this movie actually introduced Muay Thai the wrong way, but to be fair, it wasn't really the first movie that utilized Muay Thai to the world. No, if you actually watch the Shaw Brother films, the Shaw Brother Kung Fu films, you know for a fact there's actually certain Muay Thai fighters that are in those movies. And yeah, they do the dance and everything. So yeah, they're legitimate full Muay Thai fighters. So yeah, hard to believe that the Shaw Brothers actually did it better than Kickboxer did. What a shocker there. But then again, I am not surprised that they fucked up that badly. But this movie is a cult classic, and it is basically on many people's watch list. So when it comes down to martial art movies, so even though they did everything wrong, I would wrap things up right now. But right now, there's something I want to talk about. What should have happened? How the movie should have progressed? Now you're going to hear the Fearox interpretation of how Kickboxer should have been made. Alright? Basically, the storyline should have gone like this. And here's my synopsis of how the movie should have went. Kurt and Eric, basically the whole thing with Kurt and Eric still being brothers, Eric being the champion kickboxer of the world, and he gets invited to try out fighting another world champion, which of course is Tong Po in Thailand. However, this one is actually more legitimately real, set up as a full legitimate fight this time around. Where of course Kurt sees that Tong Po is fucking crazy and he probably should reconsider the fight. And here's the thing, Freddie Lee is the manager, is not only a crime boss, but he's also the manager of Tong Po, so he's not in charge of the stadium. No. He's not in charge of the stadium at all. Alright, in fact, like I said before, Muay Thai is actually religious over there in Thailand, so yeah, the whole dirty fighting thing, nope, it's a no. So eventually, the whole fight pretty much progresses the exact same way, with Tong Po actually beating Eric. Only this time, the officials are more into Tong Po's face and deducting more points, actually making him lose points as he's doing all these dirty tactics, including the headbutt maneuver. So, and eventually, where Kurt tosses in the towel and Tong Po hits it out, bell immediately the rings immediately, and when Tong Po does the elbow slam and breaks Eric's back, security actually tackles Tong Po and actually restrains him, and throws and arrests him, while medical personnel actually get to Eric immediately and rush him to the hospital. And rush him straight to the hospital, where of course it's confirmed that he is now unable to walk anymore. And here's something that the movie should progress further. And here's where the story actually completely strays away from the original source, from the original movie's material into reality. The reality is Tong Po actually viciously attacked, viciously assaulted the other championship fighter unfairly, and also pulled up a bunch of dirty tactics, thus stripping him of his title, and actually putting him out of Muay Thai tournament, and he's now sent to prison. Freddie Lee while the rest of the movie is basically Freddie Lee trying to get him out of prison, Kurt Sloan actually gets really mad, where of course the governor actually, where of course the Thai governor tells Kurt that he's very sorry what had happened though. But Kurt gets drunk and angry and starts going to local Muay Thai gyms and starts fighting everybody. Eventually, Winston Taylor, who saw the fight, actually stops him and tells him, "Dude, if you want to take your anger out, why don't you actually start fighting in Muay Thai rather than just take on the Thai fighters?" So Kurt actually takes it to heart and actually wants to train. Goes to a different gym and trains in traditional Muay Thai and actually starts fighting and actually does really well. Does pretty good for a while until Taylor tells him he should train with Zian Chow. Chow reluctantly is against the idea of actually training Kurt until he finds out that his brother was Eric and Tom Paul had injured him. And actually injured him. Everything with Mai Lee is still basically the exact same way, where of course Freddie's been trying to actually do some extortion. But here's the thing. Freddie Lee actually knows, the difference is Freddie Lee knows to stay away from Mai Lee because Zian Chow was one of the top fighters in Thailand. And there's a bit of a twist, and of course I have a twist in this movie that actually makes more sense. Eventually, Zian Chow decides to train Kurt in his style of Muay Thai, where of course he gets a lot stronger and gets better and takes on a lot more fights and becomes well, eventually the champion. Freddie Lee is actually disappointed in this whole thing, and he's even more enraged knowing that Zian Chow has personally trained him. Eventually, there's some little loophole clauses that actually get Tom Po out of prison. But while Tom Po was in prison, he continually fought in Muay Thai in prison. Where of course now he's under an agreement saying he could go back into the ring within a few months, but he has to sign more agreements saying he can't actually do any more illegal shit because now he's on probation and he wants to get his title back from Kurt. And of course, Mai Lee and Zian don't want him to actually fight Tong Po, but eventually Tong Po actually gets to one of Kurt's fights and challenges him head on for the title. Kurt immediately accepts the challenge, but to Zian's disapproval. However, there is a bit of a twist, like I said, with the storyline. And here's the twist storyline. The twist storyline is that Zian actually trained Tong Po, in my version, Zian actually trained Tong Po years ago, and at some point Tong Po got really overhyped on himself and actually started to become more and more aggressive, and eventually and here's the thing, the sexual assaulting that happens in this movie does actually happen in this storyline, but it happened in the past. And when Zian Chow found out about it, though, he kicked Tong Po out and actually forbade him to step foot inside his dojo ever again. So Zian Chow actually decides to have Kurt and Tong Po fight in the Muay Baran system instead. So they get ready for the Muay Baran fight. Eventually, Kurt gets out and eventually Eric gets out of the hospital and finds out about this whole thing and tells Kurt not to fight Tong Po. But Zian actually tells him that there's no need to worry. The governor and everybody else actually is putting money on Kurt Sloan this time around and not Tong Po. So now the whole kidnapping situation, it does actually happen again this time around. However, it's not just Zian who actually wound up saving him, but the governor sent the SWAT team to assist Zian along with Taylor as well. So the Muay Baran fight actually happens. Only this time around, Kurt doesn't go full strength. He's on equal terms with Tong Po, and so it's practically an equal fight. That they're pretty much on par with each other at this point. Even Tong Po is impressed of how much Kurt has progressed as a fighter. So eventually Eric makes it to the stadium with Zian, the SWAT team, and Taylor, and the SWAT team. The governor's there, and he has Freddie Lee arrested. So Tong Po loses his shit and he starts to fight again. Only this time around, Kurt beats the shit out of him in the more traditional Muay Baran system, and of course, Kurt actually breaks Tong Po's legs and kicked him so damn hard. Tong Po refuses to give up, and of course, Kurt kicks him in the back, thus breaking his back. But here's the thing: since it was done in the Muay Baran system rules, Kurt's not in full trouble because it was basically because this is what Tom Poe wanted. He wanted to actually break Kurt, but instead Kurt breaks him instead. Quite turn of events. Oh yeah, a big turn of events. Eventually, after the fight, Tom Poe is again arrested, sent to the hospital, and after he's sent to the hospital, he's going straight back to prison for life. And the movie ends with Kurt marrying Miley, and they have kids, and eventually he brings Muay Thai to the United States. And that is how the Fearox story synopsis of how Kickboxer should have went. Anyway, that was my interpretation of how Kickboxer should have went. And do I think it's better than the original? But then again, I'm an artist. That's just my way. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to my rants. You all have a good night. And seriously, since I live here in New Jersey and with this nasty snowstorms we've been getting, be safe out there. All right, this is Fearox Frank signing out.